Memory loss, forgetting people, forgetting things, forgetting experience, that amnesia part of dementia is often the most common thing we think about when we think of dementia or Alzheimer's. But did you know that there are 8 A's of dementia? And I'm going to go through what the 8 A's are and a little bit about our experience with them with our mother, who has a rare form of dementia called posterior cortical atrophy, as well as Alzheimer's, potentially Lewy body. There's been some debate about Lewy body versus PCA. Anyways, she has mixed dementia. So let's start with that amnesia, the memory loss. Um, for us, she would forget appointments here or there early on. But now she does not have any short-term memory. So I can actually be having a conversation with her, walk away to get a glass of water and come back, and it's like I just arrived. So she doesn't have any short-term memory. She also doesn't have any long-term memory. She has forgotten most of her life experiences. Um, she knows that she has a mom. She knows she'll sometimes ask about her mom. She'll sometimes remember some of her siblings. She'll sometimes remember my sister and I, but sometimes she thinks she had 4 children. Sometimes she doesn't know she had children. Most of the time, she doesn't know who we are. So definitely amnesia is a big part of these diseases. And that is why it is such a common thing that we think about. The next A is anosognosia. I have a whole video about anosognosia in our Disrupt Dementia YouTube channel. But anosognosia, I find to be one of the most frustrating things about caring for someone with dementia. It is actually a complete loss of awareness that you have anything wrong with you. So the actual part of the brain that processes or that is self-aware is no longer working. So they don't know that they have a disease. They don't know their abilities have changed. So for our mom, she thinks she can do everything she used to be able to do, whether that's cooking, driving, walking, doing a fitness activity, whatever it is, because she doesn't know that there's anything wrong with her and she can't do anything by herself anymore. Agnosia is A number 3. This is about loss of recognition using your senses. So, inability to know what an object is. So for our mom, we might say, that's your bed. And she'll, that's a bed? Or you might hand her a fork, and even holding the fork, she won't know what that fork is. So, or hearing a sound, she might hear a sound and not be able to identify that that's a dog barking, or that's a bad example because dogs she loves, but most sounds she wouldn't be able to identify what is that sound. So agnosia is a big part of dementia. For us, because she has that posterior cortical atrophy, a rare form of dementia, it really affects her visual processing. So agnosia was one of the first things that was happening for her. The inability to understand what objects or anything was, or to recognize faces or people or anything like that. So agnosia, A number 3. A number 4 is aphasia, which is the loss of language. So people with dementia and Alzheimer's will have trouble speaking or understanding what you're saying, reading and writing, like understanding words and sentences. For our mom, she still loves to talk to people. It's one of the only things that she can sort of participate in. But her language doesn't really make sense anymore. She will use words that are not words or the wrong word. Her sentences will trail off as she can't think of words. And she doesn't fully understand most of what people are talking about. For her, the reading and writing was lost much earlier, again, because of that visual processing. She could recognize letters, but not full words, let alone sentences. So aphasia, that loss of language, is A number 4. Number 5 is apraxia, which is the loss of purposeful movement. Being able to, say, use utensils to feed yourself, or use a walker and hold on to it properly, dress yourself. Our mother lost a lot of the ability to do anything by herself pretty early on. She was, not able to, again, this probably is mostly visual processing for her. She wasn't able to recognize that this was a t-shirt and not a skirt for dressing herself. So she lost the ability to dress herself quite early on in her dementia. She now can no longer feed herself without quite a bit of cueing and adaptive utensils, which have been somewhat helpful, but still it's a challenge for her to actually hold on to the utensil, pick up the food, and get it to her mouth without assistance. So apraxia is really, really a devastating part of dementia, and it takes away a lot of people's independence. Altered perception or misinterpretation. So this is again, for our mother, because of her visual processing challenges, this was one of the earliest challenges that she had with her dementia. This can be like lack of depth perception, so she won't understand the depth of steps or how far away something is. I remember one conversation we were having, we were looking in my backyard across to a neighbor who was quite far in the distance, and she said, "Oh my goodness, he's very small," because she couldn't understand that he was actually far away. She's like, "He's a very tiny man." But it was actually her depth perception that was causing that perception. We actually, my sister found an old Facebook post from like 10 years before she was diagnosed, where she didn't understand the shadow on the door in my backyard, that was not two different colors. She thought it was two different colors on the door, but it was actually just the shadow causing that. So inability to interpret things that you are perceiving. So spatial awareness, sometimes this is hallucinations. For our mother, she will often see people or dogs or all kinds of things. So altered perception is A, number 6. Number 7 is apathy. Not wanting to do anything, not being interested, not being motivated. And this one is an interesting one. When our mother first retired, she didn't have any motivation to do anything. And looking back, I wonder, was that some dementia starting to, a symptom starting to show, or was it really that she needed a break after working for so many years? I don't know. But definitely apathy is something that we have seen. There's a lack of interest in getting involved in anything. She had no interest in doing anything. Um, so apathy is definitely a big part of dementia. And then finally, the last A, number 8, is attention deficits. So the inability to focus on something, or even, to draw your attention to something. It's very easy for our mom to be distracted. So one example is recently I've tried to arrange some FaceTime calls on the days that I can't go visit her in her long-term care home. And if they're doing those calls with me in a place that is open and there's other people around, the call is pretty much useless because she is constantly like, "What's that you said?" And like hearing something going on over there or looking over there. She's not able to actually focus on me. She's not able to watch a television show. She can't focus for longer than probably at this point, 15 or 20 seconds. So that attentional deficit, that reduced focus, is a big part of dementia. So those are the 8 A's of dementia. By the way, we have a tracker where you can track these symptoms yourself so that when you're going to doctor's appointments or when you're requesting assistance with care, you're able to cite some of the symptoms that people are having. So make sure you go to disruptdementia.com, grab our tracker, so that you can really be clear about what the symptoms your loved one is experiencing are. Like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what else you'd like to learn about.